Here are 3 players worth making trades for in your Dynasty leagues before the trade deadline because their cost outweighs the risk. Number 1 is Najee Harris, a player that was previously top 3 at the position, but suddenly the tide has turned. After being selected in the first round of the NFL draft just 2 years ago and finishing his rookie season top 6 with 17.7 fantasy points per game, he is currently ranked number 29th overall in fantasy points per game with just 10.9. And this is, of course, sending fantasy owners into a frenzy as they try to get him off their rosters as fast as they can.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
But this is why you should reconsider. Even if we ignore the preseason Liss injury, we shouldn't. Even last season, while ranking top 6 in fantasy points per game, Najee Harris had the exact same offensive line issues, as he ranked running back 53 overall in run blocking rating, and not so surprisingly, he also ranked top 10 overall in stuffed runs across both seasons. But there's more. Per PFF on the year, Najee Harris not only ranks neck and neck with his yards created after contact in 2021, but also his breakaway run rate. So while he feels different, a lot of this has to do with the volume opportunity from last year to this year. But at the cost of a 2023 second-round rookie pick, teams looking for a Najee Harris resurgence in 2023 with a revamped roster could do a lot worse for a lot more expensively. But before I continue on to player number 2, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and don't miss more content just like this. Because everyone hates an injury-prone running back until they love them. Just ask Miles Sanders. Because after looking like one of the league's most explosive runners in 2022, after tons of lost time due to injury, Dobbins is still trying to get things back in order. And prior to yet another injury in week 6, J.K. Dobbins was finally beginning to look like himself again in week 5. After averaging 3.75 yards after contact with a breakaway run rate of 38.6 and an elusive rating of 140 on just 8 carries, that is a spicy meatball. But Dobbins will be forced to do more than ever on his own once he returns from injury, as this Ravens offense is depleted literally everywhere. And that includes the offensive line. Because after a top 3 run blocking rating in 2022, Dobbins has been forced back into action with the 46 overall run block rating in the NFL per player profiler. Yet with the league's 5th best overall game script and the belief that Lamar Jackson will have to throw more than ever, now is probably the time to reinvest. Because with a middle of the road strength of schedule and a lack of depth everywhere, Dobbins could catch fire and give you that league-winning playoff push you need today with an upside piece into 2023. So make a play for Dobbins, but if it's a wide receiver you fancy, take a look at our 3rd player, Treylon Burks. After living in a doghouse through the NFL preseason and missing most of the early part of 2022, there are few players in existence with more upside and less actually known about them than Burks. Because Burks was off to an impressive start after finishing his first 2 NFL games combined for 11 targets, 7 receptions, and 102 receiving yards. Most impressively, this came on the backbone of 49 yards after contact and an average yards per route run of 3.5, which would have ranked him 2nd in the league, only behind Tyreek Hill. And this is the allure. With Robert Woods the only weapon in this passing game, Tennessee needs an explosive presence downfield. One similar to that of Treylon Burks in college, who ranked top 4 after the catch and number 1 overall in yards per route run amongst all 2022 draft-eligible wide receivers. But on the year, Ryan Tannehill, who only threw 50 deep balls last season, is sitting at nearly the same identical rate at 8.2% of deep targets, which Treylon Burks has been the recipient of on 18.8% of his total targets this season, and is the reason why in week 1, Burks broke over 104 air yards on just 5 total targets. So while on paper he hasn't broken out just yet, he still is a first-round pick with an extremely explosive college profile and a path to an alpha role on his own roster. And at a current price tag of a 2023 second-round pick, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Treylon Burks. So who do you think is a good buy low candidate? Respond in the comments below and tell us who you think. And make sure to hit the subscribe button on this channel to continue to help it grow and give yourself an advantage in the fantasy leagues that you play in.